Jazzcast Pros.
If you have been here for any length of time, you have heard me talk about sales and selling. And if you don't sell, you don't have a business, and the power that honing on your sales skill can have. And you're probably sick of me talking about it. But I started vibing with this girl on Instagram. Her name is Allie, and she created a 3-day mini course called Ditch the Ick. And it was so fun. It was so interesting. She actually started it with different sales villains, Disney villains that could be associated with your sales style. And so we got to learn about what we're doing with our sales process around the Disney villains, and then how to change that. And just really talking about like leaning into what you're meant to be as a salesperson and aligning with who you are so that you can ditch the ick that comes along with selling sometimes. And so I invited her to come on the podcast. It was such a fun conversation, and I cannot wait for you to listen to my conversation with Allie. We just really talk about so many parts of the sales process and how you can lean into them, find the ones that really feel good to you. And so it's not just me preaching about finding alignment in sales. You're also going to get to hear it from the incredible Allie Fell. Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the current or aspiring solopreneur, navigate the messy middle so you can make both an income and an impact. Hi, I'm Rashawn, and I love creating safe spaces for women to be courageous in their dreams. I have taken on sales as a big talking point over the past year on my podcast, and I love hearing other perspectives. And so I'm really excited to chat today with Allie. Welcome to the table.
Hello. Thanks for having me. So I'm Allie, and I'm in North Carolina in the United States. So I know there's people all over the internet, so that's where I'm at. I live on the coast, so right near the ocean. And yeah, I serve mostly female entrepreneurs. One side of my business is my creative passion, which is content creation. I work mostly with local businesses because I like to film myself. So that's one pathway. And then my other pathway is sales mentorship. So I have a very deep passion for aligned selling and ickless selling. And so that is kind of where I grow my online space.
Perfect. Yes. And I love that you said aligned, because that's something that I say a lot on your workshop last week. You talked about it a lot. And I think a lot of the women that I work with, they feel so deeply about what they have to offer, but there's just this friction, this ick, this unalignment when it comes to selling. And so can you kind of take us through how you got there? I'm assuming that you didn't just like wake up one day and be like, I want to work in sales. So share a little bit about that journey with us.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. So I have been working since I was 14. And to say that, I guess, is a part of the story, I've gone through, retail jobs, which involves selling. And I've gone through being a large medical practice operations manager, which, if believe it or not, involved a lot of experience with salespeople. And then from there, I went to what I call my PTSD survival job, where I just threw everything away and went into something comfy, which was an executive assistant for a mortgage company. So I worked for 2 different vice presidents who ran sales teams. So sales. And so from there, I just felt really drawn to do something passionate. Like, I was a mom, didn't really have anything for myself. And so I kind of just came to the idea one day that I was going to go be my own business owner, do my content creation. And through that business experience, I was finding myself in, sales, which never really crossed my mind, because I would tell the VP I worked for in mortgage, I will never be in sales, never do this job. And that's because all you ever see is that sales is gross. And we think about sales as the car dealer guy who we love, but he's got one goal to sell you the car. And a lot of times, even in those situations, you feel a little bit love bombed because everything's about you in a positive light until you sign that line. That's how I got into sales, I guess. And I'm already ready to ramble about how to get to the aligned part. Yeah. So I would say that's where I came. So now, since I've been in the business and I've been having to sell, the passion for redirecting one side of my business to showing other people that they can sell, like I needed to hear, has really come to light for me.
Yeah, it's really beautiful because like a lot of us, like when we hear about sales, we're like pushy, love bombing, coercion, and being forced into things. And we've all had those experiences. Like I remember signing up for a gym membership and the person who was setting me up like tapped into the piece of my heart. And literally as soon as I signed it, he was on to the next person. And I didn't see him ever again like the whole time I was there. And I was like, that felt so terrible. And I'm sure there are things that when you were at the executive assistant position, there was a lot of sales experience that you saw. You're like, I want to do it the exact opposite of that. Or like, I don't want to do it like that. And so I think that one of the things that we can work on is like taking those negative narratives and like flipping them and really switching them. And so how would you say, like, what advice would you give for like baby salespeople who are just kind of dipping their toe in to reverse those narratives?
Yes. So I have two things to that. One is to make sure like you go into business with a shield, because I have a similar story, but it came from business. And one of the first times I ever quote unquote invested into myself, the worst thing you can say to people, I was kind of roped into this thing, and I even vocalized how I didn't think it was for me. I had a situation where the person who was trying to sell to me was like, oh, but we have this person in here who's just like you. Like she has your same story and you guys would be so awesome together and you need that. And so basically I got sold there just like you did, like really dug into that piece of you. And then I was into a coaching program that I didn't belong in with a lot of money lost. So go into business with that blinder, kind of be cautious. You'll learn, but and to the baby salesperson who thinks they can't, my biggest advice kind of doesn't really belong to sales, but if you're going to be in business, make sure that what you're offering to people is something that you're deeply passionate about, or that you don't have to necessarily sell. Like if you really truly believe in your product, then selling is different for you versus if you just jump into like an MRR and are trying to push out something for money. Different advice there. But if you're truly selling something for people that will change their life, solve their problem, or that they need, like the passion is what you need to let fuel you versus the outcome. So I think it goes to talk about the offer in the sense of what it does for somebody instead of it as an income producer for you. So I think that's my advice. It's not tangible advice, obviously. You can't just go like jump off of here and say, okay, but it's about starting from that point and making sure all of your messaging, which is what I talk about is the most important, is about how that whatever you're selling is helping the other person or providing value, solving a problem, giving them some kind of monetary gain.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I totally agree. And on a couple of points that you said there is like outcome focus can be really disheartening, especially when you're new and you're just building your funnel. And if you're only focused on like who said no or how you're hearing crickets or whatever, it can be so disheartening. And so focusing on, the why and your passion, and also focusing on like your activity, because that's the only thing you have control of.
Yes.
Part of, my ADHD and is rejection sensitivity, and also like craving routine, but also like don't tell me what to do. How do you manage like both sides of, because also like one thing I struggle with is like hyper focus, and all of a sudden I'll get really focused on something, which is amazing, and it can spiral out of control or dysregulate me. And so do you have any advice on like how to kind of find that balance between being a salesperson and being a creative and being neurodivergent?
Yeah. Yes. So I guess my whole sales framework is for the neurodivergent. I don't advertise it that way, but because I am neurodivergent, like it's built from lived experience. So my advice is to do internal work past your whatever your neurodiversity is. If it's autism, if it's ADHD, if it's OCD, look past it into like who you are and what motivates you. So like to your point of rejection sensitivity or needing that deadline in order to even do something, I very much am the same way. And so being a creative, I will go into whatever fuels me versus what I have to do. And so what I have found in my space is doing internal work. Learning those things about me has helped me find the clients. And this is going to be kind of crazy, but helps me find the kind of client that I have to have in order to be productive. So for me, I have to have a client who is a little bit more direct and focused versus a willy-nilly person like me, because I have to have someone kind of telling me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to, and I won't listen, but I need that little push every now and then to be like, hey girl, did you finish this? And I'll be like, oh, yes, I did. And so in order to have that and it still be healthy and feel good for me, I've kind of like narrowed down my messaging so small to like one type of person that I kind of draw in who I need. And if I happen to make a connection with someone who I can immediately know, like we wouldn't do well together, sometimes I will find a spot for them in my business world that is just creative delivery, or I kind of put people in buckets, and that is part of my ADHD. And so that's how I've been able to mesh the two, is to ensure that I'm pulling in only the person who I can serve. And I know that when you're in sales, you don't want to hear that because you want to make as much money as possible, but you still will. And what happens is if you just pull in everybody and you can't deliver, that's a way bigger detriment to your business than really honing in on the person that you actually can deliver to.
Yeah. There's so much that you said there. And I think, this is a journey that I have been on, is like building a business that works with my brain and not against it, and not trying to fight and say, I should just do this. Why can't I just, Also, one of the things that like really resonated with me last week that I don't think I talk about a lot in my sales content is like, you're not going to be for everybody, and you need to learn who you do mesh with. Like, I'm sure that there were, bumps along the road and you took on clients that just were not a fit, but tell us about just tell us more about that. Cause I found that so interesting of like, yeah, me and this person, we can chat all day, but we're not going to be good in business.
Correct. Yes. I only have a hypothesis, I guess, about this. I'm very much rooted in a lot of things that you said, rejection sensitivity and all of that. And basically what I did was I got very obsessed with learning about who I am and who I can speak to, because like you said, it is very hard to put on blinders and know that you're know that you're not for everyone. But I guess one thing about me is everyone's not for me either. And so even though I want to be seen as good, I don't want to be seen by everybody. And so as like almost like a blocker in my neurodivergence, in order to be seen, I have to pretend. And to an extent that only the people who want to see me are seeing me. And even though like I've created that mentality, it's actually true. So I know like if you're scared to post or you're scared to put something out there, just know too that like, just like you scroll past something you don't like, or you like your feed becomes who you are, so does everybody else's. And so like, kind of have some calmness in your body about knowing that like the messaging is so important, because if you get the messaging right, you're messaging to those people because the algorithms are doing their own thing. I guess part of how I came to that conclusion was naiveness, that, positive self-talk, that it's okay. Like the only people who are going to see you are the ones you want to see you. Like, so I guess it comes with a lot of like self-awareness and just like having to talk myself into doing it. Also, like the more I am a firm believer that the more you do something, the more you have confidence in it. And so it's just become a game of putting myself out there and receiving back feedback from who I was trying to reach, I guess.
Yeah.
And just getting to a point in life and in neurodivergence where you just are who you are, and F anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm alive, and thank God, because there's been moments where, it's been hard. So I kind of just have really gotten to that point in life. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely at a point right now, I think, where if like someone else is judging me for putting my stuff out there, like that's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping great at night. Thank you, though. You
Correct.
know?
And two, like I feel like I kind of didn't answer your question. And I do have one thing that I guess too from my past, like working in a corporate world. And one thing that really helped me get here was to see people at the top of a very large company or a very high position being just like me.
Yeah.
And I had, like, that was the most awakening moment, is that once I had someone who was so very successful, like, open up to me on a personal level, to find out that not only did they come from nothing, they had the same neurodivergent qualities as me. And all I had to know is that one person did it being like me. And I was like, okay, well, here I go. Because so I encourage you to talk about the hard things, because somebody else needs to hear it. And it's not always about you. It's your story, but it might be for someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I totally agree that like seeing your struggle in someone else's, a huge reason why I started this podcast is because like you see the hyper successful people, the overnight successes, the people who do it with ease. And you're like, well, it just must be easy for those people, like everybody who is successful in business must be an extrovert and must have like super high self-confidence and da 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 da. And it's like, you peel back that curtain and none of that is true, Yeah. And I think too, maybe you could speak on this a little bit, like, because you talked about doing things over and over, and that's when you get the confidence. And I think a lot of people swap out confidence with courage, and they think, I just must have the confidence to do it or else it's not meant to be. And I always say, like, you weren't confident about like walking before you could walk. You just had the courage to try. You weren't confident that you could walk until you had hundreds of hours into it. You weren't confident the first time like you swung a tennis racket. We do a lot of sports in my family, and so that's kind of something that a lot of people get, but like you did it over and over again until then you had the confidence. You just had the courage to like be bad first and not be successful until you use that muscle enough to do it. And I think that's such a huge thing with sales too.
Correct. Yeah. And I agree. One thing that has helped me get there, because like you said, it doesn't come naturally to anybody. And if it does, you're lying. But, which is good. Some people need that. And I talk about this too. And like my framework is that don't create unnecessary no's. Like don't create no's for yourself that ruin your confidence. If you're someone who has rejection sensitivity disorder, don't go DMing cold strangers and creating your own no's with your offer. Like DMing people is a great tool, but build a relationship and don't talk to them for a day and then offer them something, because you're going to get a no or a ghost. And every single time you do that, you create that self-doubt. And so you need, like, us as humans need wins to build confidence. So what I like to tell people too, especially to the new B sales baby, start with people you know, like people who love you. Don't even take a lot of money from them if you don't want to, but get those quick wins in the beginning. And then like that fuels your confidence. Past that is that once you deliver good work to somebody, they continue to talk about it. So even if you did kind of have to sell to your friends or family, and maybe not your friends or family, but their circles, like reach out to those people to see who they know first as like warm ways in, because the more wins you get, the more confidence you grow. So it's a psychological thing. Like, don't jump on Instagram and start like from zero messaging people. Like, figure out what your avenue in first. Like, what's your door in, and then let it go from there, and not be scared to leverage the people around you because they already love you. And even the no's are softer. And it may even be like, no, but guess who I know? And then guess who I know? And guess who I know? And it just webs out from there. And before you know it, you didn't even have to ever DM one single person.
Yeah.
You're going to start DMing you because someone else knew them and they sent them your way.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it's one of the things that I deal with the women entrepreneurs that I talk to. I'm like, okay, what was the last no that you heard? And they were like, well, I guess I haven't really pitched anybody in a while. And it's like, you need to start having more conversations, even with the people in your circle. Just get out there and start talking to people about what you have. Because like, people can't buy what they don't know exists.
Correct. And I always say to that point is find yourself like 5 people that you're close to who do business and ask them to talk about you. Ask them to share your content on their platform. Say, hey, I know like I don't have anything for you, but will you share this post? And every single time I do that, somebody comes out of that. Like, I'm not, and these people, I mean, they literally hit a share button on their profile. And so is like, hey, I saw this person that they know, like, and trust talk about you. And now I'm like, oh, cool. Oops, I don't actually have anything for you. It's like, but it's like, hey, if you ever need this, like, I'm your girl. And so that is something that is so leverageable. Find those. It doesn't have to be 5 if you don't know 5 business people, whatever. And I'm not talking about your Instagram bestie. I'm talking about true people in your community who can share your stuff. That is the most solid thing out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, because I think you and I are both like helpers. And so we surround ourselves with other helpers and people who want to be of service. And so like saying to them, hey, can you do this one thing for free? People are like, of course I could do that for you.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but we just have to ask, which is another like conversation that can be outside of our comfort zone.
True. You're right.
What are your crucial sales habits or rituals, routines, however you kind of frame them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I just gave away one of them, and that is that anytime I'm launching something or I need to fill a space in my pipeline or something like that, my first thing I always do is create content that is very specific to what I'm needing to do. And then I'm asking my network to help me push it out. And so basically, like, I'm at a point now where like those people don't care. They're just going to hit the share button. But you do have to kind of build the confidence to even ask your people. So that's one thing that I always do. Another thing is that I ensure that I keep all, and these aren't, like I said, these are like long-term things. So small tangible advice is hard for me, but I'm ensure that I treat every human that I come in contact with in a way that is pleasant and memorable. Because what happens is if you're constantly growing your persona or who you are to your community, there's places to tap in when you need something to sell. And then the third thing I would say is that I'm always encouraging and engaging with other people, because I firmly believe that what you give comes back in a universal way, not just an algorithm tells you to engage. I'm talking about like truly pouring into others, because so say like I spend my free time like hyping people and like sharing their content, and like I mean it because that is who I am. If that's not you naturally, then you can go pretend like it is for a few hours. And then when it's your turn to then go sell and push, those people rally back around you, because you have to really dive into the fact that business is a community. Like if you're in the business world, you're part of a community of people. And whether it's business to business or business to client, like you have to stay in that realm of that business community. You don't just get to be a solo person who hides under your shell and then go sell something to who. Like,
Yeah.
like you have to kind of be an active part of your community in order to be seen.
Back to what you were talking about as far as like showing the hard parts, like your community is going to rally around you then. Like when you're like, I just heard no, I just like fumbled, I just like made a mistake, then that's another time you can pour into people who've been there, who get it, who understand.
Correct. And I firmly believe that. And if you're listening and like you're an ADHD or neurodivergent salesperson, this will be the easiest thing for you to do, is to ramble about what happened to you. So you may think someone doesn't want to hear the bad, or like it puts you in some kind of light that you're a failure. First of all, there are no failures. You just are pivoting because whatever. And like I said earlier, every single time someone opens up about something that happens to them, it makes me feel like I can keep going. Mm-hmm. And so do that for others, because everyone's failing in the sense that you think every single day. So no one's really failing. We're just learning. Every one of those no's or whatever is a learning experience, and share it, because there's no reason to be a gatekeeper.
Right. Awesome. I could talk about this with you forever, but Allie, are you ready for the lightning round questions?
I'll try to be fast.
What is a must-read book?
One of my favorite books that I read in business is You Are the Brand. One of my business friends suggested that to me, and it kind of just stuck. I think about that book and the things that he taught every day.
Yeah. What does creativity mean to you?
Creativity is who I am, and it is like expressing the inside on the outside, and that when you create, it should be of passion. And so creativity is outward passion.
Yeah. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would have to say, and this was recent, somebody told me that who you follow on social media is just as important as who follows you. So make sure that if you want to get on your page and feel encouraged, and you want to keep going, and you want to surround yourself with what you want to be versus the ick.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. What is something that's on your bucket list?
I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I've never really wanted to go to Disney, so I have never been. And so I just like imagine this big, extravagant Disney trip with her, just her and I. So I don't really know how my husband or son will feel about that, but that's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And last question is, it's a little bit of a humble brag. What is the coolest shit you've done in the last year or are currently working on?
So I have to say, I'll either get love or hate for this, but in 2023, I think, I don't know, I turned 30, like legit 30 that day at the Eras Tour for Taylor Swift, with tickets that I did not purchase on a ticket gouge, that I got into the pre-sale for. The only sale that I got into was my birth date. So I got to turn 30 in the Nissan Stadium at the Eras Tour, first round, and it was just probably one of the best things I ever did. And I will have to say, it's almost fueled part of my business, because to be surrounded by women who
Mm-hmm.
support women and
Mm-hmm.
nothing else was an amazing experience. So
Yeah. Yeah. I just got chills because, like, more of that. Like, if we could all just take a little piece of Taylor into us, into whatever we're doing is amazing. So thank you so much. I'll make sure to put all of your socials in the show notes so people can find you. We connected on Threads. Is that where you show up most often?
So I would say that I come and ghost on Threads, not come and go, but come and ghost.
Yeah.
And so I would say Instagram is where I'm the most active. Threads is where you'll get whatever madness I need to get out of my brain for the day.
Yeah. I know. I feel like I do the same thing. I'll post like 15 threads in one day, and then I will be like, it's just going to sit there for like 72 to 96 hours,
My thread will go viral, and then I'll deflate for a month. Then I'll be like, oh, hey guys.
Yeah.
Nothing's working. I guess I'll come back next month.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining, and I really appreciate it.
Yes, thanks for having me. I loved being here.
If you like that episode, please leave a review. Those are always so helpful on whatever platform you listen to this. Until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.